This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up, everybody? Ricky Widmer here, along with the one, the only, Brandon Swanson.
Hey.
And you are listening to the Primetime Podcast here on Most Valuable Podcast. We want to thank you for spending your day, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is when you're listening to us. Brandon, I say it every week, we got a jam-packed show. But before we get into it, how was your weekend? How'd you like your college sports?
The weekend was good. The weekend was really good. It was busy. It was a busy weekend. It was
Well, you had homecoming at work.
It was homecoming weekend at work, that's for sure. Had to work that, but it was a lot of fun. Went really well, very successful, so I'm happy with it. But on the other side for my college sports, I didn't really get to watch any of them because I was working all weekend long.
We didn't do too well in
I was trying to keep tabs on it, but no, absolutely I didn't do well in the pick'ems. I'll tell you what, when I saw that Virginia Tech had blown away North Carolina, I was like, this ain't gonna be a good week.
I should have picked them. I should have picked my Hokies. Hokie fans, I'm sorry that I went against you, but kind of another note, Brandon, we are recording this on October 10th. A month from tomorrow, when you guys will hopefully be hearing this podcast, guess what other college sports we are a month away from? Little orange kind of circular ball.
Little basketball?
Little basketball. We are a month away. The season starts for that November 11th, but we're going to kind of talk about some football until we get to then. I looked it up today, and I was like, oh, man, I can't wait. I love my college football. But I'm sorry, there's something about this college basketball season. There's something about college basketball in general that always gets my juices flowing. But as I told you guys before, we got a jam-packed show today. Going to be talking about Brian Kelly and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish as Brandon shakes his head very angry, honorary at Brian Kelly. We're going to be talking about some Big Ten football, OSU, Wisconsin. Am I going to bash him again? Who knows? Let's find out. And then we're going to find out if the Houston Cougars can make the playoffs as a one-loss team. But Brandon, we're going to start in South Bend. We're going to start with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And I'm going to be plain and simple. Just ask you the question. Should the Fighting Irish fire Brian Kelly?
Well, I think it's time to go. I just think it's time. I think something has to change. I mean, you're watching the same Notre Dame team I'm watching.
Oh, I am.
It doesn't look good. It does not look good. And this past weekend, speaks for part of it. But I think at the same time, you have to take into effect that they were playing in a monsoon there at NC State. The weather was bad. It was not good. It was sloppy. Conditions were not good at all. I get that. But this Notre Dame team has been so up and down, mainly down this season. There are 2 wins, Nevada and Syracuse. Both of them blowouts. They lost on the road at Texas. They couldn't beat Michigan State. They lose at home to Duke a week after you lose to Michigan State. And then you lose on the road to North Carolina State 10-3. This team right now has no life. And Brian Kelly is internally turning to blame his players for things that are going wrong. You need to be a better coach. You need to prepare them better. Don't blame your players. A good coach does not put the blame on the players.
Well, and that's the thing that I want to stress, that this last game that they played at NC State probably shouldn't have been played. It probably should have been played. And I say probably because they played, like you said, in a monsoon. They played during Hurricane Matthew, basically, and the field conditions were shot. I mean, it wasn't a game based off skill. It was a game based off luck. And, I mean, looking at the final score, you could say, well, Ricky, you were probably happier than a pig in slop, no pun intended, because that's what the field was, because you don't like Notre Dame. But you look at a 10-3 game, and as a football fan, I go, I don't want to watch this crap. I don't want to watch it. And then, like what you said, Brian Kelly, that was my biggest thing, my biggest criticism of him after the game, where the one thing he mentioned during that presser of, you know what, the snaps weren't good. I liked our aggressiveness. I liked our tackling, but he was like, our snaps weren't good. Really? You're going to blame the players for not being able to snap the ball when it was a monsoon out and they were playing in flood water? That was basically where you were playing. What Brian Kelly needed to do is take a little bit of ownership on himself and be like, hey, you know what? I put this loss on me. I didn't prepare for this. We didn't prepare for this. We are going to go. We're going to get better, and we're going to beat Stanford in the next game. That's what he needed to say, but he didn't. He chose to blame his players, and really one of the things is they get rid of their defensive coordinator. We talked about that when it happened. Who else is going to be the scapegoat for Brian Kelly? Who else is there? I think the next one up is him.
But see, I think that's the thing, and I think that we've seen something like this in the past where Brian Kelly he gets the red starts to rise. He gets upset and stuff like that. He can't necessarily handle it himself, so he looks for other people to blame. Oh, it's your fault. It's a coordinator's fault. It's a player's fault. It's a quarterback's fault. It's you're blaming Deshaun Kaiser. You're blaming your center. You're blaming everyone that's not you. I get it. Yes, you say that you let your team down. You've been letting your team down all season long, Brian, and now we're starting to realize maybe we need a change at the head coaching position. Ricky, before you and I came on to do the podcast today, you told me an interesting stat. Brian Kelly against ranked teams for the past 6 years?
Yeah, and during his entire career at Notre Dame, where he came in the 2010 season, he started out pretty good against ranked opponents, but as of this game, he is 12-13 against the top 25. 12-13. And you look at this season alone, he had only one ranked opponent, and that was Michigan State. Well, he's going to get another one in Miami. As of right now, could get a second one in Navy, and as of right now, could get a third one in Virginia Tech. If he loses all three of those games, we're looking at a 12-16 record against the top 25. And it's possible that Notre Dame could lose all three of those games this season.
Quote, we're looking for wins, not improvement on one side of the ball or the other. Although I was very pleased with our physicality, toughness, and tackling, I'm just extremely disappointed in the offensive execution and lack of ability to manage the snapping of the football, which was atrocious as well. End quote. Well, in a game that you had 10 fumbles in awful conditions, you know what? You can't blame the young man. You can and you can't. If this is a gorgeous day, a beautiful day in North Carolina, then okay. You can say, you know what? Okay, you didn't do a great job. But at that point, you still don't say, there's ways to say things. There's ways to protect your players. There's ways to throw him under the bus. He threw him under the bus.
Basically, put a little ownership on yourself. The good thing, the thing about leaders, and this isn't just a discussion now with Brian Kelly. This is a discussion about what it is to be a leader. For me, I believe a leader is somebody who, I don't want to use the word lead because you're using it to kind of describe it, but you are showing
gains respect.
You are showing from example. For example, the thing is, if I was going to be a leader, I'm not going to just tell you what to do. I'm going to be like, hey, let's do this. And I'm going to be the first one out there doing it with you, showing you, being that leader, showing you. In this case, you could tell the players, you didn't snap the ball well. Put a little ownership on yourself. Be the coach that's like, hey, you know what? I'm going to take the blame. The media can look at me. You guys do you. Keep that in practice. Keep that behind closed doors. Don't throw your players under the bus. Take a little ownership. Take a little credit. Say, hey, you know what? This one wasn't on me. Or this one was on me. Pardon me. This one was on me. And then move on. I look back to, and here's an interesting thing. Another coach that was on the hot seat, or I watched a little ESPN video where they said his seat is getting a little hotter, is Mark Helfrich in Oregon. And one of the quotes that they said was, it seems like that 2014 national championship game is kind of years away. Like, it feels like it's longer than it has been. You could say the same about Notre Dame. That 2012 national championship seems like a millennium ago, I should say. Seems like it's been forever. And you look at that team, the reason why you went there, you had Golson, who was playing out of his mind that year. You had Tommy Reese, a veteran quarterback, right there with him. But if I just look at the award winners that this Notre Dame team had last season, Tyler Eifert, just look at his NFL career. That is a player. You've got Zach Martin, a pretty good offensive lineman. You got Lewis Nix, a pretty good offensive lineman. Manti Te'o, a pretty good linebacker in college, even though he had a fake girlfriend. And then Stephen Tuitt, a pretty good defensive tackle on the defensive side of the ball. So you had guys that year that could make plays for you. Now, is this team the same team that we saw in 2012 from Brian Kelly and the Fighting Irish? Hell no. But the big thing for me is Brian Kelly needs to look at this and go, hey, you know what? I'm going to put a little ownership on me and not throw my players under the bus.
I think that's a huge thing. I think that's absolutely a huge thing. And that's where, like you said, that's where leadership comes from. Leadership comes from being able to say, you know what? This is something that we didn't do well collectively. We all could have played better. I could have done a better job of coaching. I could have prepared them better. We could have collectively just done a better job. But instead, he took the different route of kind of calling out select people. This has been a bad season for Notre Dame football. Mm-hmm. Any Notre Dame fan will tell you that. Any Notre Dame player will also tell you that. I mean, there's been times this season where they've been kind of called out, and Kelly's called them out for not even having fun, for not looking like a team that's in it, that has any life, any energy. That's not good. You're not boosting their spirits at all when you call them out and basically say, you're not doing well. You screwed up. That was atrocious. The whole afternoon was atrocious. You scored 3 points. I think that it's really unsettling for the rest of the players to know that that's how your coach is going to pop off if you do something wrong. And if you do something wrong in a big moment. How many times? Poor guy for the San Diego Chargers this past weekend. The holder. Mm-hmm. Lost the football. Could have tied the game. If he gets a good hold down, kicker puts it up. Lambeau puts it up. Could have been good.
Could have gave me 3 fantasy points for that.
Sure could have.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't happen. But I don't think you see Coach Mike McCoy go and say, you know, that's why we lost. Was that what ended up leading to you losing? Sure.
No, defense could have played better.
But guess what? You could have had mm-hmm. another touchdown at another time. Mm-hmm. You could have had a big interception here or there. You could have gotten this sack. You could have gotten this stop, that stop. There's so many things you can go back and look at mm-hmm. and say went wrong. But guess what? That's just, you just have to say, you know what? Didn't work out today. We need to stop this. We've got to turn it around. It starts with me. And that's what it should be.
Well, and it does. And
that's what Kelly should be saying. It does start with him. It starts with his position. Right now, he has not been doing well at his position. And I know that may sound a little funny, but each coach, like a player, has their position, has their duties, has their responsibilities, and has their assignments. Well, Brian Kelly has really been dropping the ball. He's been getting out-coached.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in that Duke game, that was awful.
You were there.
Yes.
You were actually there.
It was truly a lot of fun, a great day, great afternoon, but you don't lose that game. You don't lose that game against Duke. Not Duke football. If we're playing basketball, it's a different story. Mm-hmm. But not Duke football. That does not happen. And I think that the fact that, things couldn't get going offensively, but you have to game plan differently. Our defense also wasn't good. Our defense hasn't been good all year long.
Mm-hmm.
They need things need to change with Notre Dame football because guess what? I don't think that there's going to be too many donors who are going to be too happy about this because this season it's getting away from them. It's kind of getting out of hand in a bad way. Mm-hmm. You're 2-4. You lose any more games, you're looking really bad.
You lose one game, you're tying the most losses you've ever had in a Brian Kelly era. He's gone 8-5 3 times, 2010, 2011, 2014. And that 2014 wasn't a good year. You guys lost. At the end of the year, I want to say you guys had a 4 or 5 game losing streak that had teams like Northwestern, had teams like a ranked Louisville team in there. If you have 2 more losses, though, this is going to be the most losses that you have under Brian Kelly. And the thing I kind of look at is, what are you getting from Brian Kelly? I look at his records over the year: 8-5, 8-5, 12-1. Cool. 9-4, 8-5, 10-3. Cool. 2-4. So it's like, are you fine with just 8-5, 8-5, 8-5, and then having a spark year? However, this is the first down year that Brian Kelly's had, and I think because of that, I'm not ready to. I think if it was me, he'd be gone, be out of town. We need someone new. I don't think he gets fired, though. I don't. No matter what happens this season, because one, he's got too good of a relationship with the athletic director at Notre Dame, and number two, they're going to look at it and go, "Oh, it was only one season. It was only one season." However, if it was me, I'd be firing his ass, because guess who I'd be having on the phone tomorrow? Les Miles. I'd be having Les on the phone tomorrow saying, "Hey, I'm firing Brian Kelly at the end of the year. You want the job? It's yours if you want it."
Well, I think that that's something that's kind of interesting, and I think it's interesting because of the fact that, you know, that's something that you can be thinking about, that you can have in the back of your mind, because I don't think a lot of times teams want to get rid of their coach if there's no one else to go after, if you can't make that big splash. You know, that's what we talk about. Les Miles is going to be a huge splash wherever he goes. We just know he is, because he's a huge name. He's a great offensive mind, even though things weren't ending up working out at LSU. But I think that right now for Notre Dame, that may be one thing that they look at and say, "Hey, you know what? Maybe we do get rid of him. Maybe we do try and bring in Les Miles."
Or Tom Herman.
Tom Herman, I think, is going to be really hard to bring over, Ricky.
What if they lose one more game? Houston's already lost one. What if they lose one more? They got to play Louisville.
But at the same time, I don't think Tom Herman is going to be upset by the way that his team has played this season. I don't think he's going to be upset with this season. I think he's going to look at this season and say, "This has been an outstanding season. We've been ranked. We've been way up there in the top 25. I think that this is really good for us. This is something we're going to continue to build off of." It's his second season there. I don't think he leaves this early, because I think he's one of those guys. He wants to really stay with these guys, kind of help really grow this program.
He actually cares about the kids.
And then eventually one day he might leave, but he's one of those guys where you then bring the players into it. Yeah, he wants to see them become better men, not just better players. So no, I think Tom Herman's out of the question on that one, but I do think that you take a look at Les Miles. I think I think that's very intriguing. I think he would possibly be interested, but at the same time, there's going to be other people trying to come get him. How is he going to see with where he was at LSU? You had a defined conference, you had a defined division, everything was defined for you. At Notre Dame, you're just kind of off on your own island.
Go play whoever you want.
Better or worse? Better or worse?
I think it could be better for Les Miles, because what he can do is say, "Okay, it's not the same as it used to be. Notre Dame used to be play whoever you want and play whoever you want. This time it's play whoever you want, but there are some ACC games you have to play. You're not part of the ACC, but you're kind of putting your foot half into the water." And the one thing that I think he can do is he can go ahead and say, "Okay, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and just schedule some harder opponents." He can go play Alabama, play Auburn, play SEC teams, play those harder opponents, get more money into the school based on that way, get tougher opponents, build this team for that as well. That's what I think that needs to happen. I think Les Miles would be a great addition to this team, not just because of that, just because of what he brings. Some people might just say, "Hey, you know what? It might be a new face," but we got to wrap this up. So, Brandon, I'm going to ask you plain and simple. You said it before. I'm going to ask you one last time to finalize. If you were the AD, are you firing Brian Kelly? And if so, who are you bringing in to replace him? If you get your pick, no matter who you ask, they're saying yes.
Well, Ricky, I'm going to fire him, but it's not going to be until the end of the season. And the reason why I'm firing him is because I don't see the rest of this season going very well.
Brian Kelly, you fired.
You fired.
You fired.
Stanford this weekend.
A little Donald Trump.
Stanford this weekend. It's going to be in South Bend. It doesn't go well, though.
You got to win.
I don't think
you got to win.
I don't think it's going to go well. Stanford has been playing well, but I've really started to lose faith in Notre Dame this year. Then you have an off weekend, which you'll need big time. Miami after that. Miami's looked good. Notre Dame hasn't. Navy, Army, back-to-back games, Virginia Tech, and then you ended at USC. You've got a lot of games at home. You've got USC on the road to end it. I just don't think it looks good. It does not look good coming up for. It just doesn't look good coming up at all for Notre Dame. I don't think it's going to end well, and I don't think things are going to end well for Brian Kelly. I would get rid of him. And how do you not go after Les Miles? I think that he would be great. I think he'd really kind of give an energy back to a fan base that has been wanting it, because it's not just this season. Mm-hmm. This fan base wants to go to the playoffs. They want to get there. I think Les Miles could do it.
Well, and I don't know how you don't bring up the cool name of how don't you not go after Ed Orgeron at LSU, man? You gotta bring him in, right? You gotta give him an interview at least, right? or you know what? Ex-Illinois coach Tim Beckman, he's also out there. You can go ahead and pick up him too. But this is where you guys come in. Let us know down below what you guys think. We've gone a little bit too far on this topic. You know how it gets when I either get Brandon or Sean. God, can you imagine how long we'd be in here if Sean was actually on the Primetime Podcast tonight?
Yeah.
We might never leave.
Sean and I can keep going back and forth.
With how much you two would have to say. But this is where you guys let us know down below what you guys think.